Thank you so much, Janet. This is extremely cool, and I'm very, very, very honored to be here, especially after that intro. I'm just going to locate my water now. We had a good night last night. It was very exciting. So I'm here because I directed a film called Booksmart. I can now call myself a South by Southwest filmmaker, and that is a huge honor. It also makes no sense. I'm an actress most people know from movies and TV streaming currently for free in your hotel rooms, and hopefully on airplanes where altitude takes everything from a 6 to a 9. So I appreciate you all being here today. Maybe you've seen Booksmart, and you like it, and you're curious. I hope so. And you're curious as to how the hell a first-time female director got to make an R-rated comedy about smart girls. Or maybe you haven't seen it, but you're someone as unlikely to become a director as I was, and you're curious and skeptical and maybe a mixture of both. So I'm here today to explain how I got here. My entire life, all I wanted to do was act. It's been my dream since I was 5 years old. I announced it to my parents before kindergarten and freaked out when my older sister starred in her high school production of The Pride of Miss Jean Brodie, which she was so fantastic in, and it really threw me into a tailspin because I was the thespian in the family. That's how much I really identified with being an actress since a young age. For 30 years, I put everything I had into making that dream come true, and it did. I'll always be grateful that I've been able to achieve that dream. I've been able to pay my rent doing what I love. Almost everything that I had wanted to do, I had done by the time I was 27. But as time went on, I couldn't deny that something didn't feel right. I was unsatisfied. Because the paradigm that I was brought into, where I was told to just look pretty, sit in front of the camera, don't ask questions, don't give us your opinion, didn't work for me anymore. It's like hearing about a party you've always wanted to go to, and then you finally get invited to that party, and you get to the party, and you realize the party sucks. And you have to take over the DJ booth, because you don't want to leave the party, you just want to make it better. I realized that if I wanted things to change, if I wanted my voice to be heard, I was going to have to shift the paradigm from within. And that's really hard, especially because I've been working in this industry since I was 18, so 4 years. Just kidding. 17 years. Almost 2 decades, which is truly insane. I got to celebrate my 35th birthday here last night at our premiere. And it was truly the most special day of my life. And I have 2 kids, so don't tell them that. I moved to LA in 2002, right after graduating high school, forgoing college to work as an assistant for a casting director. I did this because I read somewhere that Catherine Keener did this, and that's all I needed to know, truly. I was fresh out of boarding school, where skipping college was unheard of, and everyone thought I was insane, but I was determined. I worked for a brilliant woman named Mally Finn. She was extraordinary at her job as a casting director. Seriously, look her up. Even if you've never heard her name before, she's responsible for a movie you've loved. She's cast over 88 films, including Titanic, LA Confidential, The Matrix, Elephant, All the Real Girls. I could go on forever. And she had a very real knack for discovering new talent. She was infamously tough, with the highest possible standards for preparation, professionalism, and creativity. Much later, I learned that a family friend had helped me get that job as a way to dissuade me from wanting to go into show business. She thought a few hundred hours of sorting headshots would alert me to the unlikelihood of me ever making it and would send me back to the East Coast with my tail between my legs. But I couldn't be deterred. Mally was inspiring. In a town where most people were expected to get famous based on facial symmetry, Mally demanded brilliance. She would routinely throw people out of an audition room for not being off book or having any original ideas, and then would casually ask me to call the agent and tell them their client should come back when they'd done the work. I would then pick up the phone, quivering with fear while I dialed CAA and waited to get screamed at. But now they're my agents, so things have really come full circle, and I'm very, very grateful. She was amazing at her job. And she was doing her job as the most important and least appreciated collaborator of her directors. This is a right we have to wrong, you guys. No casting directors get enough credit for the value and talent they bring to movies. They are essential to the process and the texture of a movie, and they should be celebrated with more awards and accolades than any other department. I can speak towards my brilliant casting director on Booksmart, Allison Jones, who is the most brilliant woman, and without her, the movie wouldn't exist. I learned a lot from Mally. Some of it is seared into my brain forever, like her lunch order. Gazpacho, no onions, edamame, no salt, cottage cheese, no fat. I will remember that as long as I live. When she first asked for it, I had to Google every single item. I was from the East Coast. It was all very new. I would spend the first half of every day sorting headshots of women who looked eerily like me and wondering how the hell I would compete with them. I didn't have a headshot, had no idea how to make one, and my resume included 14 high school productions and a special skills section detailing 3 different styles of horseback riding. And then during lunch, I would dredge up the courage to ask Mally questions about how to build a career as an actress. Looking down at her cottage cheese, no salt, she chewed her food silently and then gave me the best advice I never took. Create your own content. Make what only you can make. This is invaluable wisdom that applies to every aspect of the filmmaking process. Write the script only you can write. Shoot the film only you can shoot. Design the set the way only you can design it, and play the part the only way you can play it. It took me a decade to understand that, but like a lot of good advice, it didn't sink into much later. I was 18, and my plan was to, be discovered by some genius filmmaker, whisked to Cannes, asked about my process, and say things like, I just trust my director and let go. So, I was so desperate to be someone else's muse, it didn't even occur to me that I could be my own. Eventually, I scrapped together a headshot, entered the dizzying shitstorm of pilot season. Pilot season doesn't really exist in the same way anymore, but back in the Jurassic age of network television, an actor with no real experience could audition for 3 or 4 pilots a day, never reading the entirety of any script because they didn't give it to you, just flash memorizing a few pages of sides before marching into a cattle call of 18 to 35-year-olds in various stages of bitterness. I naively tried to make friends with the other girls in the waiting room. My secret was that I'd brought many of these same actresses coffee while they'd waited to be seen by my own boss. But this was war, and there was no time for pleasantries. And then a miracle happened. An actress got fired from a pilot at the last minute, and I was cast to replace her. To my complete shock, it got picked up, and suddenly I was the lead in a 1-hour drama on television. I kid you not, within 1 hour of being cast, I was swept off to a hair salon to get my hair bleached Barbie blonde before a fitting, where I was told the producers wanted to see as much navel as possible, and oh, would I mind trying out these chicken cutlets until one size was officially approved by the male producers? It's easy to cringe now, looking back, but in the moment, I was thrilled. I had been cast as the lead of a TV show. This is what I came here to do. It was big time. I shot my first scene at Mel's Diner in Hollywood at 2 a.m. with an entire film crew standing around and gawking at how much food I could eat because I didn't understand that actors didn't actually eat the entirety of the prop department's work during eating scenes. And I thought, I've made it. Now, every single time I drive by that Mel's, I want to run in and grab that Barbie blonde chicken cutlet container and drag her out of there. But here's the thing. I needed to know that career to understand that I didn't want it. I needed to achieve my dream to realize that I could dream bigger. Years later, I would learn that the actress originally cast in that role had been fired for, and I quote, not being fuckable enough. What a town. To dozens of people's disappointment, that TV show was canceled after 3 episodes, but I had my foot in the door. I got auditions and meetings, and soon I was a working actor. In many ways, my career has been everything that I'd hoped for. I got to be a part of one of the first high school lesbian relationships ever aired on television, and work with my heroes behind and in front of the camera, and play someone who became a Lego. I've been in good and bad movies, directed by brilliant people and a few hacks. But recently, I realized that I've been in over 50 movies and TV shows, and I have never been in a movie that passes the Bechdel Test. That test is, of course, named for cartoonist Alison Bechdel, and defines its criteria as follows. The movie must feature 2 named women who speak to each other about something other than a man. That's it. That seems like it should be very doable. Look, Helen, it's raining. That's all you need. I mean, stranger concepts abound in Hollywood. This is the business of imagination. A woman is more likely to have a love affair with a fish than speak to another woman about something other than a man. It was kind of a stunning realization. I'd loved the stories I had been a part of telling, and I hadn't even noticed how little agency women had in them. I was starting to feel the boundaries of the paradigm I was stuck in, and I didn't like it. A huge turning point for me in my career, and an incredibly meaningful moment in my life in general, happened here at South by Southwest in 2013 when we premiered Drinking Buddies. I'd been to the festival many times before, but this was the first time I felt real creative ownership of a project. I was a producer on the film, and I felt our tiny team had truly crafted something unique together. It was an entirely improvised film. Joe Swanberg's process was initially terrifying and bewildering to me. No script, no predetermined description of the character I was supposed to play, no studio, no guarantees. But I wasn't just an actor for hire. We were attempting to create something from nothing. The process was going to have to outweigh the result, because any result other than us all watching it together on a futon seemed very unlikely. I found that incredibly liberating. I suddenly found myself operating from a different part of my brain. I wasn't acting, I was telling a story. And people liked it and found it truthful and still approached me with IPAs and tales of their workplace romances. I'm grateful for that movie because it shoved me into the realization that my instincts might actually be worth listening to. I finally understood that I enjoyed controlling my own narrative and that I might actually be good at it. Sitting in the Paramount Theater for that premiere was the moment I decided I was ready to take more control of the stories I was telling. I knew I had something to say. I wanted to be a part of a movie that passes the Bechdel Test. I felt I wanted to be the boss and be in a position to hire people the way I wanted to and create the set environment I'd always wanted to be on. But acknowledging that you want that opportunity is only the first step, because then you have to demand it. When the people who hand out money picture a director, they usually picture fresh-faced dudes in baseball hats and glasses who can barely grow a beard, and they don't picture the actress they've pegged as someone's wife or mother or love interest. And I say that knowing full well that I was still in a better position than so many people. I'd worked with directors I could reach out to for advice and encouragement. I had relationships with producers and executives I could collaborate with. My career as an actress had given me really enviable access. But I couldn't wait for someone to offer it to me. No one can. This industry, like many industries, is designed to reward and promote the things that have worked before. For decades, the only people who directed movies were men and white men. So the only people who made any money for studios were white men. And so the only people studios trusted to direct movies that made money were white men. The system is a horrible cycle of only giving opportunities to the kinds of people who've had opportunities. And we have to crack that system open. We have to force our way in and demand that our voices be heard. Because I want to hear your voice. I don't want to hear the same storytellers over and over. I want to hear what you have to say. Now more than ever, we need different perspectives and new stories and new shocking points of view. The world gains nothing by making yourself small. I want you to make yourselves big so you can help shatter this model, this pattern. I was really, really lucky to grow up in a household where some of my first memories were my parents telling me that I could do anything I wanted if I worked hard. They believed in me so strongly, it held me over until I could believe in myself. I heard, yes, you can do that, my whole life. And if any of you didn't have that, I'm telling you right now, yes, you can do that. Sometimes it's harder and sometimes it's longer, and you'll hear many no's, but you can do it. Here are some of the no's you're most likely to hear and how you should respond to them. I don't think I can do this. The first and most important no you have to get rid of is the no that comes from yourself. You are the only yes you can control. You have to give yourself that first yes so you're ready to demand it from everyone else. You've never done it before. You can't direct a movie until you've proven you can direct a movie. That's the catch-22 a lot of people are caught in. But if people won't let you direct a movie, do whatever it takes to show people you can direct. Direct a play, make a web series, assist in an acting class. When Mally told me create your own content, she meant, in that time, rent a camera, shoot something to mail in an envelope to a casting agency, and just hope they watch it. It's gotten so much easier. Right now, you can take your phone, make something gorgeous that displays talent despite a lack of budget. You could be filming this speech in a cool enough way that someone would watch it and think, holy shit, look what they did with the camera, or the editing, or the music. Just start to get it down yourself. When people told me they couldn't consider me as a feature director because I'd never done it before, I directed a music video. Then I directed another music video. Then I directed a short film. I tried to create a body of work that showed me doing it, so no one could claim that I couldn't. You don't know enough. I think a lot of people, especially women, think they have to wait until they know everything before they can take this step. They're like, I don't know anything about lenses, but you know who knows something about lenses? Your DP. Directing is all about delegation. You should learn as much as you can about who you need to hire and what they need to know, but you don't need to be an expert in every single aspect of filmmaking. You need to know the story you want to tell and who you want to work with to help you tell it. Also, if you think you know everything, you will be a terrible director because you won't listen to anyone or collaborate on anything. The best directors know what questions to ask and know what answers to have. Okay, so after you've gotten through all these no's, doing something new is terrifying. That fear prevents so many people from taking the leap. If anyone's seen the fabulous documentary Free Solo, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go leave right now. But the documentary is about Alex Honnold, a free solo rock climber and one of the most extraordinary athletes in the world. Alex does one of the scariest things in the world, and he has a really incredible thesis on fear. He says that you can't change the thing you're afraid of. You can't change the enormous rock you're going to climb with no ropes, or the things about directing that frighten you. All you can do is expand your comfort zone to envelop your fear. And the way you expand your comfort zone is by learning as much as you can. I was never going to be able to change the things that are scary about being a director. Putting yourself out there and asking your cast and your crew to take a chance on you, and the number of answers I'd have to have every day on set. So instead, I needed to expand my comfort zone by being as prepared as anyone could ever physically prepare. So I produced another film with a first-time director, Reed Morano, where I got to learn more about the logistical aspects of making a movie and watch her work to absorb much of the experience as I could. I directed those music videos and the short, and with each project, I felt the comfort zone growing and growing. I asked everyone I knew their advice on every specific part of their craft. Even if they didn't work in film, I asked about leadership or collaboration or general workplace advice. I went back to directors I'd worked with and drilled them for information and recommendations and as many details as they could remember about what it's like to be behind the camera. And I kept thinking about what Mally said when I was 18. Create your own content. Make only the movie you can make, and make the movie you want to see. I did all that preparation, so when I came across a story that felt personal and specific enough to be told in a way only I could tell, I would be ready. And that's how I felt when I came across Booksmart. I wanted to make a movie like the ones that inspired me and changed my life when I was younger, those generational high school comedies that make you laugh and happy and also seep into your brain and help you see the world differently. And Booksmart is a movie I wish I had seen in high school. A movie about smart girls whose intelligence was just one of their weird, specific, amazing qualities, about best friends who love each other like soulmates, and how we all just want to be seen. One of the most valuable and meaningful things I did before starting Booksmart was asking as many friends and coworkers and directing heroes their one piece of advice before you went off to direct. I collected all their varied specific wisdoms, kept them at the front of my brain the entire time. I wanted to share some of those that I found most valuable. Hire people with something to prove. It is a completely different experience to work with people who have something to prove, who are ready to launch their careers with you. They will work harder. They will link arms with you. They won't be patronizing. They will learn alongside you, and they will work their asses off just to make the best possible thing. Learn to pivot. You gotta ride the horse in the direction it's facing. You decide to direct because you know the story and you want to tell, but a movie is a living, breathing thing. You can't make a movie without adjusting to the chemical equation of the actors and the location and the weather and the props and the costumes you have in front of you. If you lose your dream location, you adjust the scene to reflect your new location. If you audition someone who may not be right for the part as written, but you know would be fantastic in the movie, rewrite the part for them. If you were expecting a sunny day, but you're outside and it's raining, adjust the scene to reflect the reality of the weather. For example, when we started filming Booksmart, I wanted the character Molly to be obsessed with hip-hop because I was obsessed with hip-hop in high school. But after casting the extraordinary Beanie Feldstein and starting to actually film the scenes and watch this character develop, I realized we had to lean into what the real character of Molly was in front of me, not just what I had pictured in my head. We pivoted, and she made it more extraordinary than anything I could have possibly imagined myself. Give yourself permission to change your mind. If you've hired someone or decided on something and you feel in your gut that something is wrong, you have to listen to that. It does not reflect badly on you to change your mind if you're thoughtful and confident about it. Firing someone or changing your mind can be the most important thing you do if you know in your heart something is wrong. In my experience, it's one of the hardest things to do as a director or a boss. It's painful and difficult and scary, but it's vital. Find at least one true partner. This is a collaborative process. We're not walled in a cabin creating something alone. The only way to do this is to find at least one person you can truly trust and make them your partner. I discovered my collaborative partner in the process of making Booksmart, Katie Silberman, a writer and producer that I'll work with for many, 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 many years. And it's extraordinary what happens to you when you link brains with someone who can help you flesh out your ideas. It makes you feel so much more powerful and inspired than you do on your own. Don't sit down. I mean that metaphorically as much as physically. The easiest way to imagine directing is to picture your name on the back of one of those classic director chairs. But on Booksmart, we never even unloaded those chairs from the truck. We never sat down, not while we were filming, not between setups, not even during lunch. And I mean that metaphorically as much as I do literally. There's always something to do. There's always something to fix or to think about or to try to do better. Also, if you don't sit down, other people won't sit down, and the whole set has a different energy where people are eager and excited to keep working. I believe in lunch. Making a movie is hard. It's long hours, logistically frustrating, and you're trying to be creative and open while basically running a construction site. There were a lot of times on set where it felt like we weren't getting anywhere or we were going in circles and we were short on time, so it felt like we had to keep pushing, but sometimes you need to take a break, eat some food, inhale, exhale. Trust that when you come back with a full belly, you'll have a new, fresh, valuable perspective. Don't take your foot off the gas. There are a million reasons not to make a movie. They're expensive and difficult and a risk every single time. And if you give anybody an excuse to not spend that money or not take that risk, they'll take it. You have to be the movie's biggest champion at every single stage. If you don't, it'll fall apart. Once I was making one, I realized how many movies happen because of the sheer will of a director or a producer who will not let it not happen. You cannot give up. That includes developing the script, casting, pre-production, production, post-production, marketing. Basically, until somebody's buying a ticket, you cannot let up. There are so many milestones in the process where it feels like you're done, and you should take a moment to celebrate them, but then you have to keep pushing. Even getting into South by was a moment to celebrate, but then we had to focus on what we would do here, and the marketing and the festival itself, and how to really maximize the experience and to value it. You can't take your foot off the gas. Don't dumb yourself down. Work with people as smart as you are. If you find yourself dumbing yourself down to meet your collaborators, they're not the collaborators for you. Ideally, find people smarter than you and work to rise to their level. So actually, people smarter than me, don't listen to that one. Keep asking advice. You don't have to take everyone's advice. In fact, you definitely shouldn't take everybody's advice, but keep asking for it. You can always keep improving. There's a wealth of experience to tap into. Keep expanding your comfort zone over and over until it encompasses everything. There's one more thing I want to say, and then get into the Q&A. I love acting, and I'm really proud to be an actress. But looking back now, I realize, of course, I wanted to be an actress because that's really all girls had to look to. If you wanted to work in movies, the only place you saw women was on screen, and they were usually someone's wife or daughter or mother, and they were there to assist a man's journey or arc. There were sporadic heroes, like Nora Ephron and Amy Heckerling and Penny Marshall, but they were rare. They were the exception to the rule. It was hard to picture yourself anywhere than in front of the camera, other than in front of the camera. And that's why it's so thrilling to imagine my 2-year-old daughter, Daisy, growing up in a world where she sees movies like Booksmart directed, written, produced, production designed, edited, sound mixed by women. And she sees, yes. And she'll see other directors like Reed Morano and Patty Jenkins and Ava DuVernay and Greta Gerwig and Mari Heller and Deborah Granik and Karen Kusama and Dee Reese and Catherine Hardwicke and Lorene Scafaria and Lynn Ramsey and Mira Nair and Gina Prince Blythewood and Elizabeth Banks and Sam Taylor Johnson and feel that directing a movie is just as likely for her as starring in one. Now, let's hear it for all those ladies. I'm excited to try and expand your comfort zones as much as possible by answering whatever questions you guys have about directing or being on set or the movie making process or anything else, so bring them on. And please feel free to ask technical or specific questions about the process of editing and of directing. Women tend to spend a lot of time talking about what it's like to be a female director or why there aren't more female directors, which is important. But because of that, we just don't get to talk about directing as often as the guys do, and I'm really happy to have that conversation. So I'll ask for some questions. Thank you so much. Hi.
Hi. I don't know. Okay, so my brother and I have really bonded over your work on Bojack Horseman.
Thanks.
We adored...
I play a deer named Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte. Charlotte really spoke to us, in fact, led to one of the best episodes of the series.
Thank you.
But, okay, so 2 quick questions, but the first one's not going to take long. Will I be, asked to leave by big, scary men if I take out my phone and, ask for you to say something to my brother?
No.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. So, yeah, just whatever you want to say to Matthew. Yeah.
Anything?
Anything you want to say to Matthew. He's 15. He and I just bonded so much over your work, and it means so much to us. It's one of our favorite shows.
What's your name?
Michael.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Matthew, you have an extraordinary brother, Michael, who thought of you today and wanted to make this video for you. And so value your relationship with your brother. He seems really awesome. I'm happy I get to be a part of your bonding experience, and I hope you guys watch Booksmart.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. So, all right, now to the not fan question. Talking shop. So there are a lot of powerful feminist statements, a lot of powerful statements about Hollywood and Bojack Horseman. It has a lot to say. And I wanted to know what you felt you contributed to that conversation and how you came into contact with that show. How did you get to be a part of such a thing?
You know, it's really interesting. That all happened because of Drinking Buddies. So really it all comes back to South by. Because when you make something that's really from your heart and authentic, it's always your best work, and that's what happened with Drinking Buddies, which then led to the creators of Bojack really liking that movie and saying, hey, you seem like you created a really cool character there. You want to do it on our show? We're trying to really break the mold and do something weird and different, and we're gathering together people who want to do things differently. So that's what brought me to them, and then they gave me a lot of creative agency, and I think that is why that show is so great, because the writers allow actors to bring a lot to it, and when you have Amy Sedaris, you should let her do whatever she wants. But that's why. So it's finding the authenticity in your art, and it will lead to other great things.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael.
Love you.
Aw.
Hi. I wanted to ask you a question about your collaboration with your editor, because I
Yes.
think a lot of filmmakers who are just starting out creating their own content end up doing is they direct, they write, and they act. That's what happened with me a lot. And so I wanted to get your take on kind of the importance of finding a good editor, and then how you work with them in the edit room to get what you want.
Absolutely. My editor was Jamie Gross. She's extraordinary. It was really fantastic to have a woman of such great kind of intelligence and experience, but also a real open mind. So that's what I would suggest finding in your editor. Someone who has opinions, but is really open to kind of finding your rhythm and understanding your vision. Being an editor must be such an intensely difficult job because you have to be so steadfast in your own talent and skills while also really being able to kind of tune in to a director. I really appreciated that she had those strong opinions, but she really understood right away what we were going for. We had this amazing room of Katie Silberman, Jamie Gross, and myself sitting there, gathering, trying to figure out the best way to tell this story, and I will work with Jamie for a long, long time. She's extraordinary.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I love Booksmart, by the way. Great movie.
Hey, thank you.
So I've got a couple questions, both pretty quick. So technically or logistically, what was the most difficult and challenging thing you found about directing a feature?
Okay, so technically, I would say we were forced to shoot an enormous amount of material in 26 days, and we didn't have all the money in the world. So it was about figuring out the most efficient way to tell the story. We also had 4 weeks of night shoots in the summer. So, well, spring, but in LA, I can't tell. And so it was not very much night, is my point. We had to shoot very, very efficiently. So technically it was about, again, hiring well. Scott Robertson was my AD. He's the best AD in the business, and he worked with me to figure out how we could be efficient. It meant we never sat down. We never slowed down. So when we had time before our next scene, we would rehearse. Before our next shot, we'd rehearse the next scene. We were constantly working. So I think you have to remove the kind of old adage of like, hurry up and wait. No, take that out. Hurry up and work. There's always work to be done.
And then quickly, so I go to a school where there is a high interest in filmmaking, but there isn't a filmmaking program. So me and a bunch of my friends have kind of started up like our own organization that's been running for a few years where we make short films every semester.
Amazing.
So I'm kind of curious, like, what kind of advice would you give us in terms of cultivating this creative atmosphere and teaching, as people who don't really have guidance and haven't done this before, how should we like approach the filmmaking process and teach others? Like, how should we build that atmosphere?
Well, I think you should invite people to come and mentor and speak. Filmmakers really like doing that. Don't be shy about it. I think reach out to agencies and describe your program and say, can you help me bring in some mentors and create a mentorship program? I think people really enjoy passing on their experience. Yeah, that would be my first step.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say that I have an 8-year-old niece who her dream is to be a director.
Wow, that's amazing.
She was a director for Halloween with the whole. She had the whole beret and the riding pants and everything.
The beret, I forgot the beret.
Yeah. So she has 2 younger sisters, and she gets frustrated because they don't do what she wants them to do.
She's already starting out as a great director.
Yeah. So I always tell her that it's not about telling them what to do, but it's about collaborating with them.
Yes.
And I've noticed since yesterday and today, one thing that really is outstanding about your rhetoric and your speeches is how you do not hesitate to spotlight your collaborators. And I just want to ask, first of all, that's amazing. Not many people do that. And
Sure.
I just want to ask, how intentional is that? How to really do that? Because you hear about the director auteur, and that's not a reality.
No.
And I just want to say, how intentional is that? And have you ever considered doing something where sharing the advice that you just gave right now in something like a book or some form of a blog or something?
That would be cool. I'll try to get a few more movies under my belt before I publish my book about directing. Yeah. But I really appreciate that. I do think, for me, the reason I think I really enjoy highlighting all my collaborators on this is because I realized once I started working, that's why I hadn't directed earlier. Because there is this myth that the director is this singular, powerful presence, and that everything should be attributed to them. It's simply not true, and it's damaging because it prevents people from trying to direct. If we understood that a director is simply the person who hires well, delegates well, creates the most fertile environment for people to do their best work, someone who empowers and lifts up, it is difficult because you have to create a unifying vision. And as I said, the film set does feel like a construction site. It's chaotic and sometimes it can feel like making the actual movie and telling the story is the lowest priority because people just want to get home. You have to shift that. I knew the kind of set I had always wanted to work on was one where every department had felt really passionate about the project. So I hired people who felt open to that experience. And I'm very grateful because I know every day of the process of this film that none of it would work if one of those people wasn't as passionate as they were. So it gives me great pleasure to highlight them. We had our production designer, Katie Byron, was here last night. She flew from Portugal where she was working to be a part of our premiere because she was really proud. She production designed that movie on a shoestring, and I'm excited to highlight them because I want to work with all of them again. It's a group effort, and that's what makes it fun.
Thank you, and that's refreshing because you're like, almost like a walking credits.
Hello.
My name is Miss Anna. Anna, sorry, I'm a teacher. And
Hi, Miss Anna.
Reading tutor, and I read children's books on YouTube. And this sort of ties into what he was asking is, I would love to see a children's book about a group of girls maybe putting on a play in school, but showing how the teamwork is so important and collaborating with each other.
Yes.
And a children's book wouldn't be too hard for a first book, right?
Hey, that's a great idea. I love it. Thank you.
It would be wonderful, and I would love to read it.
That's great. Okay, I'll get on it. I'll get on it.
Thank you, girl power. And shout out to all the ASL interpreters at every session. You guys kick butt.
Thank you. Very good.
Hi, I'm Katie.
Hi, Katie.
I'm a corporate video producer by day and have my own very small independent production company outside of work where I'm like trying to make it in that indie film world. But as you just mentioned, it can be really daunting to feel like as a director or producer, like you have to do it all, like create your own content and write it and act in it and do all of it.
Yes.
And I aspire to do that one day. I love that idea and I would love to have that much control. But I'm wondering if you can give me some advice or insight into how you found such incredible women to work with that are amazing writers and producers and can help you bring that vision to life, and like where you found that script and how you got the money. Tell me what you did.
The nuts and bolts. I appreciate that. Yes, that's helpful. Well, the interesting thing is that there are so many women who are so talented who want to work, and there's this myth like there's no women in Hollywood. Ah, they're all there. It's not for lack of talent, but it is for lack of access because they have been left out of the conversation. So one thing I would say is that when you're reviewing resumes for people to work with, often the people with the most experience are going to be white men because they're the ones who've been given the opportunities. You have to look beyond resumes and just start asking people who may have worked on one thing or know things, what is your creative sort of mindset? Does it link up with mine? And really just asking people, because it will be about that chemistry. It will be about that shared vision. It will not be about how many credits they have. On Booksmart, we had people from all different levels of experience. I made my good friend Brian Ling be our music supervisor, not because he was the most experienced music supervisor. He is a very awesome music person in many different ways, a manager, and has his own company, but I knew he had the same vision for the music for this film. And we did that in a few different ways. I think it's just about really communicating with people about what your vision is, and somebody might say, I know how to make that happen with you. I want to work hard with you. So it's really about gathering people and talking to them about what you want to do, and someone will link up.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
And just quickly, I guess when it comes to the script aspect of things, like you sounded like you knew exactly what kind of movie you wanted to tell. Like you mentioned kind of that high school, almost John Hughesy type film.
Yeah.
Like, did you put a call out to just be like, I want to make this type of movie?
No, that's really important.
How did you find that script in particular? Yeah.
Well, I found that script because of my friend Jessica Elbaum, who runs Gloria Sanchez, and it was really, really exciting because she produces big movies, and she thought of me for this and dared me to pitch on it. And because of her confidence in me, I went for it. She knew that it would be a script that I liked, I think because she knew me, she knew my taste, she knew my sense of humor. And so she thought of that. So it's also an important thing when you're in the position where you have access to material to think about all the directors that maybe no one else is thinking about and be like, this person hasn't done anything, but I really think they have something to say, so I'm gonna give them this chance. So because of Jessica, I had the opportunity to pitch on this script. And once I got the job, which was a huge shock because I literally pitched it as a training day for high school teen comedies. But they liked it and they understood it. I needed a collaborator. I needed a writer to help me reimagine it. And I wanted to be really careful about that decision. And that led me to find Katie Silberman. And when she and I first spoke, she unlocked the script for me. She took it to a whole other level. And I was like, oh, this is so exciting. But it was, again, Jessica who introduced me to Katie. So she had her mind out for, like, who are the people who are going to link with this one person who I thought of for this script? So I did get very lucky because these people came into my life. But it's because you have to be open about what you want to do. You got to say, I think for women, sometimes we're a little shy about saying, like, hey, I want to direct, I want to tell stories. If anybody has one, I'm really here and available, and I'd really like to do it. People will think of you. So that's how that process got started, and then it was hard work, and we linked up, and we fought like hell to make the movie we wanted.
Amazing. Well, congrats. We're going to see it tonight, so I'm really
Yay!
excited. Thank you.
I hope you like it.
Hi, my name's Mahala. So I actually have a question about one of your earlier roles. Did you realize the importance of playing one of the first lesbian relationships on TV at the time, or is it more a revolution that you've come to?
Well, it's really incredible because I think the experience of it has sort of evolved over time. I was initially not really sure what the effect of it would be. I was surprised by the response at the time. This was in like 2002, 2003, and it was sensational. And it made news, I think, because it was the first time a relationship, it wasn't just like a flash in the pan sort of like make-out session. It was a relationship portrayed in a normalized way between a character who was America's sweetheart on a teen soap, finding herself with this woman. And it was really, really kind of special, but I didn't really understand the significance when we did it. Yeah. And then people started coming up to me and saying that I had helped them feel comfortable with their own sexuality and helped them see themselves. And that started inspiring me to want to be a part of more things that allowed for that. But what's fascinating is to see how far we've come as a society, because when we were making Booksmart, there was a scene where the one character, Molly, said to Amy, you've been out for 2 years and you've never had a lesbian experience. I want that for you. And as we were shooting it, the girls called us over and said, guys, like, we don't really say lesbian experience. We just say experience. And I was like, oh my God, we're old ancient dinosaurs and everybody is evolved and wonderful now and it's much, much better. But that was the moment I was like, man, we've come a long way. But it is so important to be representative in storytelling still, and the OC really alerted me to that.
Oh, cool, thank you. I also have one more quick question, just relating on that other woman's question. With the scripts that you got, did you approach her? Did she come to you? Like, did you make it your own, as in you went looking for it, or was it something that kind of just appeared?
It's interesting because opportunities will come in front of you and you can choose to take them or not. You can choose to grab hold of them. No one is going to egg you on. And Jessica offered the opportunity to pitch, but she wasn't going to hold my hand. She nudged the door open and dared me to walk through. And I went and pitched, and I gave it everything I had. And then when meeting Katie and working on the script, we kind of did the same thing. No one was saying, great, well, here's the money. It was like, we'll see what you guys come up with. Yeah. And then we worked really hard to get it to the place where someone would actually want to greenlight it. But it was the process of like grabbing onto something that may be kind of a passing opportunity and holding onto it, and then really, being determined.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vladimir.
Hi, Vladimir.
I'm the father of 4 daughters that are just starting their careers, and this might be a question more for your parents, but since you're
here.
Oh, okay. Any advice for me to make sure that I am raising them, empowering them, and supporting them to go after, to kind of fight against the misogyny we kind of see at times and follow their dreams no matter the societal blocks that we...
Vladimir, the fact that you asked that question means you're already doing it, so you have nothing to worry about. That's extraordinary. I would say, though, what I feel like my dad did for me was really just believe in me. The world is going to be critical, And it's so important to build a foundation for your children that they can return to, where they think, even when someone knocks me down, even when I experience failure, there's someone who thinks I'm great. And it's really that simple. And I really enjoy the opportunity to do that for my own kids. Just build this foundation of true belief in them, love for them, that's so steadfast that nothing else can really blow them over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I saw Booksmart yesterday and it was hilarious. I loved it.
Thanks.
I wanted to know about your collaboration with the writer because it felt almost like a writer-director movie.
Mm-hmm.
It felt very personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know if after you pitched the script and you got greenlit, if the script changed a lot and if you worked on it and if you think about writing.
Oh gosh, well, I was really lucky to work with Katie Silberman because she was so good at kind of helping me flesh out ideas. I would sit there and kind of pace around and be like, it feels like this, you know, the feelings. And she'd be like, okay, I'll put that into actual English. But it is so important to find a writer who really is able to help you personalize material. I think, you know, the film does feel really personal to me and to Katie and to our cast because somehow we were able to each infuse our DNA into it. And that was kind of by design. I think that's what leads to good results. But the writing process was constant collaboration. It wasn't like, here's a draft, get me notes in 3 weeks. It was like, we'll talk about every single word until we fall asleep. And it's gonna be so fun and we will continue to let it evolve at every stage. So we worked together with the actors to find the more organic way to say something, anything, and that continued through the post-production process. I was so lucky that I got to have my writer and producer by my side through post because it meant that in the edit, when something, a puzzle piece fell apart and the whole thing feels fractured, I had this brilliant writer next to me who could say, I can tell that story. We can still tell that story. So I think there is this sort of unfortunate thing in film, less in TV, where writers and their roles are diminished. I think because I was raised by writers and because I did a lot of television, I thought of writers as the most powerful people in the world. I think of writers as being the most valuable person to go to. So I demanded to keep my writer with me, and I think that brain trust is really, really valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But first, I'm currently in school to be a filmmaker, and I kind of want to credit that to House, so thanks.
Really?
Yeah, I grew up watching it, so
Awesome.
It's inspiration. But yeah, so as a filmmaker, I'm around a lot of men and women who I think get really, they get really like overwhelmed by the work of it. So I wanted to know what's like the most fun you had producing and like dealing with that at Booksmart.
The most fun thing is to empower people and to see the results of it. So you have this intense amount of gratitude when you're directing a movie because everyone has gathered to tell your weird story in the weird way you're deciding to tell it. Like, for instance, there is a fantasy sequence in Booksmart that involved pretty intense contemporary choreography. And I was lucky enough to work with the choreographer, Dina Thompson, who allowed me to, without being a dancer or a choreographer myself, explain to her the kind of emotion I wanted to create with this little dance sequence and bring it to life with actors who were willing to take that step and rehearse on their only days off and learn this choreography, and then we brought it to life and it was magical. But the most fun thing was the day we shot that scene because it was one shot. Our camera operator, Chris Harhoff, who had luckily shot Birdman, so he knew a little bit about how to do very long Steadicam shots, he had to follow these dancers for 2.5 minutes, which is a long time carrying a heavy camera when dancers are swirling around and doing lots of crazy things through a house that had very narrow hallways. And we all, as a crew, held our breath for every take. And when they nailed it, because it's very hard to nail, when they nailed it, everyone burst into applause and there were tears. And it was so celebratory. And to know that that's something that just came from an idea is the most fun thing in the world.
So first of all, happy birthday.
Oh, I'm going to milk this birthday for like the next 20 years.
Oh, sure, it's a birthday month.
Yeah, of course.
question is, how do you define success? You've received this invitation to the really cool party. You're there now.
Yeah.
What is it going to look like when it looks the way you want it to look? When you've taken over the DJ booth and you've made it? Is it going to be a best director Oscar, or is it going to be something, just societal? You'll notice a change. How do you define success?
I think it's twofold. In terms of my own career, creative freedom. You have to prove that you can create something successful before people will give you total creative freedom. For me, success would be being able to make every creative decision. That must be really, really nice. I was very lucky to work with Annapurna, who throughout the production stage let me do some really wacky things and hire everybody that I really wanted to hire. They trusted me, and I appreciate that so deeply because it led to what I think is a great result. But I'm still a first-time filmmaker, so there were decisions, some of which we're heading into now as this film is birthed into the world. And I want to keep control, and I want to curate every single thing because I know the tone so well. But it's my first time, and I'm learning on the job in terms of that. And I can't wait. I think success is when I've done it so many times that my wisdom is really embedded, and I can be trusted to make every decision. I sound like a maniac. But you know what I mean. Creative freedom is so nice. And then in terms of societal success, I think it's when, Amy Poehler said it best, when women can make a bad movie and it's not a big deal. I think right now it's like so much pressure for a movie directed by a woman to make money because then they'll let us stay at the party. But we should be able to stay at the party even if we make a total flop.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for this keynote. It's super inspiring.
Thank you.
I really loved it.
That's very nice.
I'm Quark. I'm a filmmaker from the Philippines. Shout out to all the fans from Manila, listening to you online.
That's awesome. What?
Yeah, I think
we're
it's
live?
streaming. Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
My question is, I guess, you've worked with so many greats like Reed Morano and Scorsese and Kosinski and Swanberg. Are there any specific things you picked up from them work-wise that you applied as a director to Booksmart, which is a great film also. I saw it last night.
Thank you so much.
Great.
I have learned so much from all those people. Some lessons I stole directly from them. So for instance, Scorsese doesn't allow sides on set. When I worked for him, at first this was terrifying. Usually, sides, the little scripts, actors cling to them. It's a safety blanket. And yet, when you do your homework and no longer need that safety blanket, you are liberated to make choices. And I've seen the result of that. It means that rehearsal becomes a real rehearsal, not a chance for everybody to run lines. And I was so inspired by that, I thought, I'm stealing that. And it's kind of bold for a first-time director to be like, Scorsese has a rule, it's mine now. But I think I knew that as an actor, the actors would really enjoy it, and they did because they're so smart and they're such professionals. And to see them show up knowing all the material and feeling so free to make choices really allowed us to make this movie in 26 days, and it allowed us to make it great and make it their own. So one rule, no sides on set. I think it should become policy. And then Reed Morano, who, I was lucky enough to produce her first film. She was a DP, one of the only female DPs, decided she wanted to direct. I got to produce it. I got to star in it. Then she said, I want to DP it too. Great, I'll produce it. You're directing and DPing. And then a week before, she's like, I want to operate the camera. I was like, great. I believe in you completely. And to see that dedication was extraordinary. I also learned from her the connection between the director and the camera crew. Even if you don't have, I didn't go to film school. I don't have vast technical experience, but you have this brain trust of technical geniuses who want you to be interested in their process. So I got to, through pre-production, learn everything from them, and then on set feel like they were my team, my crew, and it was like an army that was so united, and I got to be the general. But from Reed, I learned real respect for every member of the technical team, the camera crew. They're also essential, and I think often they're sort of disregarded. So that's one lesson from Scorsese and Reed, and I could go on and on, but yeah, a lot of lessons.
Thank you so much. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Meredith. You've talked a lot about how you connected and collaborated with people behind the camera, and I was just wondering how you connected and collaborated with your actors and how you made this film with them.
Well, because of Allison Jones, our casting director, I got to meet all these new actors, and I got to put together my dream cast. And it was really extraordinary when we had them all together for the first time at the table read. There was magic. And we felt like there's something very special happening here. And I realized that I had the opportunity to work for actors who I felt inspired by as an actor myself. They were really making interesting choices. Billie Lourd is an entirely fearless actress, and she just completely gave herself over to me. And I thought, that's really, really inspiring. And I thought, I get to work with these people who are giving themselves to me. I think that is the most extraordinary part of the experience. You know, working with the actors was the part I was least afraid of, because that was my experience and my language. And so that was the part where I got to feel like, okay, all right, I'm in my comfort zone. And I got to really empathize with their experience and speak to them each in their own language and based on their different levels of experience and where they'd come from. But it was such a joy because they were so extraordinary. You know, asking Caitlin Deaver to swim out of a pool and then do a long Steadicam tracking shot through a house into a really intense emotional scene over and over and over is not a small thing to ask of someone. But watching her bring the thunder every time was such an amazing experience. And I was able to give, you know, little directions here and there, but they knew who they were playing. But I got to relate to them almost as a scene partner. You know, I think directors should take acting classes because it is a language in itself. You know, Beanie Feldstein had just done a year on Broadway in Hello, Dolly, and I was like, this is incredible. This person has been working. I mean, there's no job harder than being on stage 8 shows a week in a musical like that, and she was such a hard worker, and I got to kind of use that. I got to channel that amazing energy. So working with the actors was such a delight. It's my favorite part of the process. Especially when you have a cast like that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see this ticker. It's 57 seconds left. I should just use this as an opportunity to say thank you. You all had many choices of what to do this morning. Sleep. Or see other movies and see other keynotes and panels, and I'm just really grateful that you're here. I want to thank Janet again. I know she had to run to launch another thing, and I'm just very grateful that we got to be here. So if no one has any other questions, I just want to say thank you to South by Southwest for embracing our film and for inviting me here. It's an enormous honor. Thank you.